you have ever visited a commercial, you have ever put a pellet in a bait band, you have ever caught an F1 or a carp, you have got to watch this, because this is going to be one of the most insightful videos that you're ever going to watch to do with commercial fishing, because we've got the underwater cameras out, we've got a shoal of F1s feeding shallow on pellets. Lee is going to show us how to get the best from shallow fishing with pellets for F1s. We've got a whole host of rigs to get through. We're going to talk about feeding patterns. We're going to talk about depths that fish feed at. We're going to watch these fish intercepting the bait. Are they going to take the hook bait every time? I doubt it, but we're going to see them refuse the hook bait. Hopefully they're going to muggly off loads of times and we can get it to a point where we're hitting every bite. We're being super efficient when we catch these fish. So Lee, talk us through it. Talk us through your opening approach. Talk us through your general F1 shallow approach.
Right, you're right, Rob, what a build up, because this is the most excited I've been for an underwater. We've done some underwaters, but I am stupidly excited because there is a lot of fish here. Shallow fishing is the key to success on commercial fisheries for 6 months of the year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
If you want to be an angler on a commercial, you've got to know how to catch shallow. So what we're going to try and do today is see why things work, see how we can make things better, and just take a little insight so you guys know when you get on the bank that you're in the right direction. Now, we've gone for a staple bait that everyone can use, pellets, haven't we? We've got some 4, 6, 8 mil pellets on the side tray. These are baits that we can throw in, make a noise, adjust the amount of feed we feed, everything to do with that. We've got a selection of rigs, and what I want to do to start with, Rob, is almost start off a bit stupid. I'm a bit like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
All right, and hopefully, as I tweak it, we get a bit better, but we might not. We might end up being rubbish. So, first of all, what I've set up is almost like an old-fashioned shallow rig, I'm calling it. I've got a float on, I've got a foot of line between my pole tip and float. It's only a 4x12. I've got like a few strung out shot, and I've got a hook on the bottom. Now, mainly the fish we're going to be fishing for today are F1s, and F1s, as we know, are what the majority of you are targeting when you go in shallow fishing, isn't that? You know, that's usually the case. It could be an odd carp there as well. But F1s, when I used to fish rigs like this, Rob, I used to basically spend my day missing a million bites, right? Not knowing what I was doing, catching like an odd F1, thinking if only I knew how to catch them. Obviously now we've got short lashes, overshotted rigs, jiggers. We've got those here, and we're going to take a look at why they work so much better to a rig like this. But I think before we do anything, we need to get started and see what's under the water.
Before we put the rig in, talk about feeding approach, because you've got pellets.
Yeah.
We could be doing this with casters. I think a lot of the rules that we're going to talk about today ring true with casters as bait as well, or maggots, or whatever you want to feed
fair
shallow.
Comment, yeah.
The little and often feeding approach, when to feed, because there's a right time to feed, isn't there? We'll find that out hopefully as we go on.
Yeah.
And regularity. So talk me through your particular feeding approach for this swim.
So if this was my peg out in front of myself, Rob, the first thing I would be doing before I went on it, sort of 5 to 10 minutes before I wanted to go on my shallow, I would start feeding. Now for me, I always am a big believer in being aggressive with the feed when I'm not fishing. So like, I just want to attract fish. So I'm going to literally get like 15 pellets. You can have a little look.
I'm going to see if it gets a reaction.
Yeah, 15 pellets, and I'm literally going to throw those pellets in a clump so they fall through the water probably every, I don't know, minute, something like that. So if I was like fishing, let's say on a feeder, or down the middle on long pole, or down the edge, or doing something else, for 5 to 10 minutes before, every minute I would probably feed 15 to 20 pellets. If it was casters, I'd probably feed 50 casters, something a bit more.
Wow, you've got a shoal of piranhas that look like F1s, but I think they're actually piranhas in your swim.
Are they really? Right.
So you know what? Our brand new underwater video where Lee and I catch a boatload of F1s and carp on pellet tactics shallow. One of the most popular tactics for loads of UK anglers. That video is out now on our YouTube member section. Just go to the join button at the top of the screen, click on that, and you get access to this amazing video plus loads and loads of others. And we've been out shooting underwater videos on loads of different topics. Method feeder work, pellets and corn on the bottom, silvers on natural venues, and now obviously we've got this amazing footage to look back on. It's transformed the way that Lee and I, plus obviously the cameraman filming as well, they're avid anglers. It's transformed the way that we think about our shallow fishing for these species. So what would we say is the biggest lesson learned? Well, for me, it is feeding. And I know Lee was talking about on the day rigs and different presentations, but for me, feeding is really critical. And we made loads of different feeding changes on the day, and watching the fish's response to all those little changes was really interesting. So the most important thing is you have got to feed. No matter how much bait you feed, you've got to feed something to keep those fish in your swim. That is a given. But the amount of bait that we fed had a big bearing on the depth that these fish tended to want to sit at, how aggressively they took the hook bait, how many fish were in the peg at one time. The amount we fed and the frequency had a massive bearing on that, much more than I realised. You know, just from normal fishing, by getting out there and fishing, you just don't realise, you just don't see how much of an impact the amount you feed has. So for me, feeding patterns, that's my massive, biggest takeaway from our latest underwater video. Like I say, click on that join button at the top of the screen. It's available to all Android, laptop, smart TV users. Once you've joined up, you can then watch on all of your devices, all of your Apple devices as well. So I urge you, if you want to be a better angler, click on that join button. I know Lee has also got some valuable lessons that he's made from this fantastic video.
Right, I'm enjoying watching it underwater for what seems like the millionth time. You almost can't get enough of watching the fish compete for the bait as the bait falls through the water. The fish are coming in and out of the peg. Absolutely no fish 1 minute, loads of fish the next. It's really quite remarkable, to be honest, how they can just appear and not appear. I think if I was trying to say what were the highlights, what were the thing that I took away the most, it was almost like how the fish microanalyze the hook bait. In this clip here, the fish are like coming in and out of the peg, they're going for the hook all the time, but it's almost like they know there's something wrong, but they still can't help themselves. And that's something that I'm really going to take into my fishing. And you can also see a lot from the fish behaviour. The difference when they think the bait's falling through the water. All of a sudden, the fish are there, they're up and down in the peg, they're in and out. There's my hook bait, another missed bite, which, you know, that happened all the time. So the thing was for me, the tweaks that you can make. So making the tweaks with your hook bait, making the tweaks with your line, making the tweaks with the way you hook the bait, the presentation, how it's done, and then combining that with the feeding means that you can make everything miles more efficient. Like, there is always massive efficiencies to be made, because if I looked at this without the underwater, I'd be saying I'm bagging up, basically catching an F1 every chuck, but you can catch that much faster and be more efficient. So when there's going to be more or less fish, should I say, when there's less fish in your peg, you'd be making every single bite count. So that was the big learning for me, the things that I know I can do, the things that I can tweak in my rig, in the feed, and just understanding the fish behaviour there. That was just an absolute classic, Look how they come back in the peg. There, I get 3 or 4 refusals all in one go, and another one there. Rob was absolutely loving that. Again, if you were fishing, you wouldn't know any different. You're seeing an odd swirl on the surface, and the fish will be there 1 minute, gone the next. And then when this fish comes up, again, he just doesn't want it. So at this point in the day, there was loads of things that can be tweaked and improved on, and the end results were really fascinating, how we saw we could make it better. And when there was less fish competing as well, how we became more efficient because of what we learned earlier on. It really is honestly a fascinating insight. I could just watch the fish feed on the bait all day. It's absolutely crazy. And eventually I've got one there, the elastic's coming out of the pole.
you know, there was like a 2-3 minute spell there when the fish had the bait in its mouth, or nearly in its mouth, loads of times, loads of fish in my peg, and it took ages to hook one. That is what I learned. Things can be improved, tweaked, and made better all the time. And we certainly did that in this underwater. So if you haven't been and seen it, you need to go and check it out. It's absolutely brilliant. There is so much you can learn. Even if we hadn't have had the rig in the water, I'm saying you'd have learned a load from the way the fish are moving up and down, the way the fish behave and react to bait. Once you put that rig in, you really see what is happening in your peg. So an absolutely brilliant. And there you see, look, gone again. No feed, gone again. Unbelievable. Brilliant, brilliant stuff.
We have been on a brilliant journey with our underwater filming. We have been out catching huge carp on method feeder tactics. We've caught some beautiful big bream and tench on baits like pellets and corn. We've shown you guys how feeders react underwater, different styles of feeders, window feeders, cage feeders, side loaded feeders. We've gone into all these little details to help you become a better angler. But this time we have topped it all. For me, the dominant method on UK commercials in the summer, F1 shallow. We have looked at how they feed on the bait as it falls through the water, the refusals on the rig, the missed bites, the takes, all the different intricacies. It's an incredible film. It will make you a better commercial angler watching this footage. It is incredible. If you want to see it, you can join and watch all the other incredible videos that we've done over on the Edge at www.anglingedge.co.uk.
In fact, there's two. Here he comes. Here he comes. He's going to go straight for it. He's going to go straight for it. He's right on it. This will be interesting to see what happens. I think he's mugged him off. I think he's absolutely and utterly mugged him off. Here comes the fish straight in. He's coming straight in. He's going straight in. He's picked up Rob's. He's picked up his hook bait. He's got it in his mouth. And Rob has missed his opportunity.
He's a stunning fish. First fish on the underwater. Let's hope there's more.